Hello BookTube, welcome back to my channel, and we continue our library tour today with a shelf that's a little medieval and all the way up to the kind of the Victorian era. We've got quite the range of things, so let's just get right to it. And we're going to start with a fantastic volume, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. This particular one is collated by Ian Savage, and the great thing about this is it's got lots of different images throughout alongside with the text. So the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle is kind of a history that was recorded during the medieval times. It's got some years that the entry is simply skipped over, or mentions that there was a big rain or something like that. And others, there's pages of dialogue on things that happened during that year. So it's an interesting way to look and see what was notable during that time period, and is one of the definitive volumes to have if you want medieval era source material. Next we have A Most Holy War. This is the Albigensian Crusade and the Battle for Christendom by Mark Gregory Pegg. I have it on good authority that this is a good read. I plan to get to it soon, I hope. We have a Penguin classic here, Medieval Castle, Life in a Fortress in Peace and War by Philip Warner. We have The Inheritance of Rome. This is Illuminating the Dark Ages, 400 to 1000 by Chris Wickham. It's a nice chunky book there. We have a volume that just about everybody should probably have a copy of on their shelf. Maybe not necessarily this one. But this is Paradise Lost by John Milton, one of the great works of literature. This is the Longman annotated English. So you can see here an example. We've got, 10, 12 lines of the poem and a whole bunch of annotation. So I'm eager to dive into this annotated volume at some point in time, because I'm due to revisit Paradise Lost sometime soon, and there's no better guide that I could ask for than that. Next we have the Riverside Chaucer, which I've shown several times on this channel, and I've been doing a little bit of reading out of over the course of this year so far, and have really been enjoying it. I'm always in the mood for some Chaucer. And you should read Chaucer if you haven't. Give it a try, because the stories in there are wildly entertaining, extremely varied, and if you do nothing else, read the prologue, which is outstanding, and then The Wife of Bath, her tale, and that will be enough to determine if you want to read more, or if you decide that Chaucer's just not for you. Next we have another Riverside edition, this one Shakespeare, second edition, which has got a decent amount of footnotes at the bottom. Not nearly to the extent of the Milton, but it's got good introductions to all the plays, and is a great edition of Shakespeare that I enjoy. But it's not the only edition of Shakespeare, because I've got some Norton Criticals, and like all the Norton Criticals, my favorite thing about them is the stuff that comes in the back. I need a newer version of the Hamlet. This is the second edition. I know there's at least one edition newer, third, maybe even a fourth edition. And Hamlet being my favorite play, I'm excited to revisit it in the Norton Critical at some point. Play that I just read for the first time this month, Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. I did not read it out my Norton Critical, but I plan to, when I revisit it, come back to it and read the extra stuff that comes after. Next we have Merchant Venice. I've got Othello, and I've got The Tempest. I wish they had a Norton Critical for every Shakespeare play, but I've heard that there are better one volume, or not one volume, but single play editions of Shakespeare to have. I probably still want the Norton Criticals for what comes after, but I hear that the Arden Shakespeare is really good. I haven't picked one up yet, but if you have suggestions on great ones that are individual volumes of each play that have more than just the play itself, and that's the emphasis I want to place. Is I know there's lots of editions out there, and most of them are just the play with maybe a little bit of glossing on some words, but I want something more than just that. And so if you have recommendations, I'm all ears to check some of those out. We have The Tragedy of Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe. This is a contemporary of Shakespeare and I need to read it at some point in time. It's got some images in there. Yeah, I'm excited to eventually get around to reading this. Next we have Edmund Spenser, Faerie Queene. We have book 1. This is edited with introduction by Carol K. Vasquez. So this is the Hackett edition. We have book 2 and books 3 and 4. There's more than that. I need to get the others in those matching editions because they're really nice to look at. It's a nice set. I've got a Norton Critical on Spenser's poetry. And then I have the complete poetical works for Spenser, which, feels thin until you see just how small the print is in here. If I can even get it to focus. But, I mean, the print is tiny in here. So the 750 pages in here it's a lot more than that. And I believe it has the entirety of Faerie Queene in there, among all of his other poetical works. And now we jump ahead several centuries to the Victorian era, the 1800s. So we jump from Spenser, I believe, 1600s to the 1800s. And we're leading off with the one Jane Austen I own right now, and that's Emma. I think I've read this. I'm not 100% sure. If I have, it's been a while. I've got the Bronte sisters. So this is Wuthering Heights, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, and Jane Eyre. I've read 2 of the 3, and the 2 I've read have been amazing, outstanding works of literature. So I want to revisit both of them at some point in time and probably try to knock through all 3 of the volumes in here eventually. I enjoy Jane Eyre so much, I even have a Norton Critical on Jane Eyre. I've got Alice in Wonderland in the Norton Critical. Alice in Wonderland is one of my absolute favorite books. I absolutely love it. And this is got the Alice in Wonderland, Through the Looking Glass, and The Hunting of the Snark. And it's been a while since I've revisited Alice in Wonderland. I'm probably due to do that at some point in time soon. We have Uncle Vanya and Other Plays by Anton Chekhov. We've got the Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane. And this is in a kind of a school type edition. It was free. And it's one that I've been wanting to revisit at some point in time. So why not that? The Idiot by Dostoevsky. I've started in on it. I'm about 20% of the way in there. Enjoying it quite a bit so far. I've got Complete Sherlock Holmes, volumes 1 and 2. And these nice Bantam classics. So altogether, it's not super portable, but there's a lot of Shakespeare, or not Shakespeare, Sherlock Holmes. Gosh, I promise I know what I'm talking about some of the time. And rounding us out, we've got the first of Alexander Dumas. This is my absolute favorite of his, and easily one of my top 10 favorite books, Count of Monte Cristo. And then The Three Musketeers, which I just reread January, February, and absolutely loved. Loved every minute of it. It's fantastic. And so we've got more Dumas next week when we get to the next shelf. We're going to be going through into some poetry, towards the end of that shelf. So we're winding down. We've only got a couple more shelf tours to do to get through the rest of the collection. But the good news is that since I'm done with the 100 book challenge, there's book hauls. And so stay tuned for the Mishmash, because there will be a small book haul. And I'm excited to show you what I got, because I came across some good deals and picked up a couple of books that I've been wanting to pick up for a while. And yeah, I'm excited about that. I hope you have a great Sunday, BookTube. Thank you.